Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and greetings of peace upon each and every one of you. Thank you so much for coming, despite it being a very big football night. You have still come, and I think those who have not come, we know where they might be found. Any Liverpool fans, please, a shout out for them. Thank you so much, all of you, for coming to Al-Mahdi Institute's 5th annual Big Iftar of 2019. This is an outreach initiative with the purpose of encouraging friends and neighbors to come together as a community during the month of Ramadan, which is one of the most blessed months in the Islamic calendar. This is a month which is a month of sharing, giving charity, and an opportunity to renew our friendships and bring people together. And as we will see today, this is very much so, and we have speakers and guests across different faith groups, cultures, and backgrounds, having all come together. The theme of the talks this evening is something very poignant. It is safeguarding against knife crime, with short talks, prayers, and songs from representatives of different faiths. This is something which has escaped no one. We have all seen it in the news and been horrified by the things that we have seen. over 40,000 offenses involving knives were reported in 2018 in England and Wales alone. You can just do the maths, how much that is every day. And this has sadly risen by 6% this year, which means that more needs to be done, not only by the police, but faith communities also have a very important role in all of this. Schools, charities, and health services also come together. In light of this, we hope that today's event can inform all of us of the issues at hand and what our individual and communal responsibilities are in tackling this very important issue. Now, we were due to have a member of the West Midlands Police present here with us today to talk about the knife crime epidemic. Sadly, however, due to extra patrols around mosques in Birmingham in the run-up to Eid, they have been unable to join us today. However, they have kindly sent us their statement, which they would have shared, and I will read out their statement, which they have given to us. During particular times and in areas where serious disorder is likely to take place, West Midlands Police have utilized powers under Section 60 of the Criminal Justice and Public Order Act of 1994, which gave police additional stop and search powers during a 4-week period at the end of February to March 2019. Staff from across Birmingham have been drafted in to support areas suffering most from serious incidents of violence. This continues under the operation name of Forecast from Thursday to Saturday. There has been a new proactive team established to deal with gang activity and violence across Birmingham, led by Deputy Inspector Alan Teague. Increase in the use of enforcement of gang injunctions to target members of gangs and identify those who are committing offenses connected to disorder and violence. There are also regular strategy meetings with other agencies, such as the Children's Services, LEA, which I believe is the local education authority, multi-system therapists, etc., to discuss those children most vulnerable to gang affiliation and knife crime. Local neighborhood teams have also been consulted with the public to receive weapons bins throughout the region. These have been obtained through the PCC's office and provide an anonymous method of destroying bladed articles before they are used in any offense. Weapons disposal bins were also installed locally in Rubery last month. Also, all NHTs have entered schools and provided information and talks on knife crime and consequences of carrying weapons. Preventative interventions continue to take place, including Teamworks programs, which works with schools and the fire service, which provides weekly interventions starting from as early as 8 years of age, from 8 to 10-year-olds, vulnerable to ASB crime and violence. In the Inspired Choices program, which similarly involves children between the ages of 14 to 16 in the South Birmingham area. Also, there is the initiative of the Princess Trust run by the West Midlands Police and dedicated staff. West Midlands Police also provide funding via the Active Citizen Fund for organizations to arrange interventions for young people. And also the Early Intervention Program run by PC Chant, which offers further referrals for young people who are on reduced hours in education. We thank the police service for all their services that they are providing in trying to tackle this very serious and important issue and trying to ensure everybody's safety. I'd like now to call upon Mr. Altaf Hussain from Muslim Aid to tell us what we as members of different communities can do to safeguard against knife crime. The civic response to knife crime by Brother Altaf Hussain from Muslim Aid.
Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Peace and blessings be with you all on this wonderful night where we've gathered here together to share an experience of not just opening our fast, but also about discussing and describing what each another religion and culture actually does. And I'd like to thank the organizers of the event for putting this together. And I'd also like to thank them for discussing what is an actual serious issue that we as a community face. My name is Altaf. I work as a head of UK programs at Muslim Aid. I was born and bred in Birmingham. I was actually brought up in the inner city of Birmingham in Aston, the sunny side that you normally hear about on the news. I was lived there for about 20 odd years. So I grew up within that area and became accustomed to understanding, learning, and experiencing what actually happens in that community. And today what I really wanted to do was to discuss the three spheres of knife crime that I actually see. So I believe there are three, when an incident takes place, when we're looking for preventative measures, I see three spheres of influence. And I'm going to be talking about individuals, I'm going to be talking about safe spaces for young people, and I'm also going to be discussing the holistic nature of actually dealing with knife crime when we look at indices and how we actually as a community need to organize. So what I'm describing to you, or what I hope to describe to you in these next few minutes, is really around what it is that we as individuals can do and where we can actually touch these individuals, where we can actually have an influence on their lives. First and foremost, when we look at the individuals involved in knife crime, it's really easy to look at the perpetrator, look at the victim. there's also a lot of work that needs to be done around the work around those individuals in terms of their friends and their families. And what I mean by that is when it comes to an incident and when that takes place, what happens generally is that you have a criminal offense that's taken place and the police making an intervention at that stage where they pick up the perpetrator, and the victim is also cared by, unfortunately, normally by blue lights as well in terms of the ambulance service. What happens in addition to that is that there's a lot of people that are influenced by this. There are the families of both who are outraged, who are upset, who don't believe that this can happen. And I've come across families of both perpetrators and of victims who are equally fired up to actually deal with this issue. They can't believe that this has happened. And we all have interactions with those people. We have those interactions with them on a daily basis. It is really about us and how we galvanize and support these individuals at that moment when they have an incident take place and their energy level around the issue is high. It's about how we take that on board and how we share in that as well, and how we also drive and push that forward, push forward the agenda of dealing with knife crime. So there's a bit of work for us to do around that. And we come from different places of worship. We come from, some of us, no place of worship. We come from different organizations, from different institutions. We will all be impacted by this. And it is about how we participate in that. It might be something as simple as when an incident takes place, to ensure that there's calmness within the community. There may be something as simple as a peace walk against knife crime. Where are our voices in that? Do we take part in that? I took part in a couple of initiatives that took place in Lozells after a few incidents took place. In Lozells and in Handsworth, where I subsequently moved to. And when I was based there and I saw the amount of anger there was within the community about how we actually deal with this, one of the things that they wanted to show was that we are in solidarity. This isn't about young black children. This isn't about young brown children. This isn't about young white children. This is just about children. This is just really about children. And we've got to get beyond looking at this from a colored perspective. This type of crime takes place in every walk, every type of community. In every type of community. You look at Glasgow, where these crimes predominantly take place, the perpetrator or the victims are normally from a white background. When you look at London, normally from a brown or black background. From Birmingham, normally from a brown or black background as well. And when we look at other places, these incidents take place and they affect all of us. And so it is really that one first sphere that we want to focus on and say, is there anything that we can do when we find about perpetrators, when we find out that there are victims in the area? Where there's a perpetrator in the area, it's really easy just to close your doors on them. But do they really need isolation in that moment? Do their friends really need isolation in that moment? Or really, do they need friends and people around the community that can be around them? The second sphere of influence is actually looking at creating safe spaces for young people. Really looking at creating safe spaces for young people. Now, I don't mean young spaces in the way that we traditionally understand them. I've been part of a number of initiatives and I've heard of a number of initiatives where people say, we open the doors for young people, build it and they shall come. That doesn't quite work. When we're talking about creating safe spaces for young people, space is just is also almost a difficult word to deal with. What we're talking about is creating safe conversations with young people. And sometimes that means going out to the places that they're hanging out in. Sometimes that means having conversations on their level. When I worked within the youth inclusion projects in Birmingham, where we worked with 50 of the most deprived people, 50 of the most deprived young people, or the most likely 50 young people to offend, when I was working with them across 3 different areas, so I worked in Washwood Heath, Birmingham, Lozells, and in Spark Brook. And when I worked with these young people, what I really found out was they just want somebody to sit down and have a conversation with them. They don't want somebody to preach to them. They don't want somebody to dictate things to them. What they want to be able to do is they want to be empowered so that they can make their own choices. They want to be empowered so that they can make the right call. Very often as adults, right, the worst thing that we normally experience is being spoken to by your manager. Like I think I'm a millennial, and I think I still am actually. And I've got this thing in my mind where when authority speaks to you, there's something that just puts you off straight away. A little bit puts you off, and you're like, okay, I'll take it because this is a person of authority speaking to me. But there's also always that thing about organized religion, organized, structured organizations. And I think I was reading an article from the, I think it's the Church Weekly, the New Church Weekly. I was reading an article from there. And they were saying it's not that young people don't recognize faith. It's not that young people don't recognize God. What young people have failed to recognize is organized structure. And that's something that doesn't really sit well with them. And when I'm speaking to young people, I normally find that they don't really care about my background. They don't care whether I'm from this persuasion, that persuasion, what sect I'm from, what this I'm from, what religious background I'm from. Sometimes they just want to talk. And it's about us making sure that we create those safe spaces and that we create initiatives and activities for young people. One of the things that I'm going to say, which might be slightly left field here, is when we're talking about gangs, right? We no longer live in the 1980s and the 1990s or the early 2000s when it comes to gangs. Gangs have changed in the way that they're formed, the way that they look, the way that we perceive them, the way that, everything around gangs has really changed. When we're talking about young people in a gang now, what we're talking about is four young people that just normally chill on the wall outside their house. It's not a gang, it's just a group of friends. When we're talking about gangs, we have the old stigma that normally comes with gangs, where we see, traditionally, unfortunately, Afro-Caribbean gangs as an indicator of how gangs work. And that was an epidemic and an issue, in the late 1990s, the early 2000s, where you had the Burger House crews, where you had the Johnson crew, where you had different gangs like that actually forming and taking place. But now it's changed. Now it's really fluid. Now these identities and these affiliations and these relationships change really, really quickly. The last two deaths that have occurred, especially in the Small Heath area, they took place because two young boys had an argument on Facebook. They had an argument on Facebook, and they said to each other, all right, let's settle this in the park. Went to the park. One of the lads, unfortunately, had a knife on him. And he stabbed another 16-year-old, and the 16-year-old's life ended in that park. So we have to also frame it from that perspective. And we're from, like I said, we're from our own institutions, from our own organizations, where we have to realize what our impact is on the life of young people. What is it that we do? What is it that we're doing for our young people? If we're not going to do something, we can't expect others to come up with the answers. The question we really have to answer is, are we doing enough for our young people? Are they designing the programs that we have? Or are we thinking to ourselves, you know what, they must love PlayStation, so let's just do a PlayStation night. Let's just give them some pizza and some PlayStation, they'll be happy. Let's just give them some Fortnite with some good internet access, and they'll be happy with that. Are we actually letting them design what they have? I'll give you an example of something that will link to my next point. We were working with a group of young people, and we would, from a deprived area within Birmingham, there were, it's not a deprived area really, but it's an area that normally comes up in the national indicators, right? And we were working with a group of young people there, and we said, what we're going to do is widen their experiences. So how can we widen their experiences? So we're going to take them to Star City, right? Which probably you're thinking, how's that widening your experiences? So we're going to take them to a Pan-Asian restaurant there. So this is predominantly a subcontinental group of young Pakistani and Bangladeshi kids. What we're going to do is take them to a Pan-Asian restaurant, and we're not going to help them order their food. Right? We're just going to sit there, we're going to give them the menu, and they're going to have to order their own food. And what happened was, something really amazing happened, is like you could see the kids were like, they knew what they wanted, but they didn't know what to have it with. Or they knew what they liked, but they didn't know how to infuse things together. And what that really, really gave me, that one incident gave me, is that actually widening experiences is so important. Widening their experiences, widening their understanding of different people, different cultures, different faiths. Different people being most important, because within the same cultures and faiths, you have people that have different personalities. But just exposing young people to other young people allowed them to gain more of an understanding, allowed them to develop more of an appreciation for one another, allowed them to understand how to ask the questions to each other without offending one another. Just these little soft skills became so important. And that's what happens in that crux, in that moment of disagreement. It really is about that soft skill, about people being able to speak to one another. Thirdly, and we can never ignore this issue, right? This third issue is really, really important. For those who watch YouTube and Facebook, you may have come across a famous gentleman called Kala. Kala is an amazing young man who describes things in a very pleasant way that gives us all a better frame to understand things with. One of the things that he mentioned was, when it comes to knife crime, and I totally agree with this, because we seem to detach it. When we're talking about knife crime, we're talking about safe spaces and young people. When we don't take a step back, is look at, actually, is our education system failing them? Is public health actually failing them? What are those holistic issues around those young people that are forcing them into having those conversations that they're having? What is it that's forcing them in their situation? What are the societal factors that we have there? And we all have a responsibility to raise those issues. We all have a fundamental responsibility never to forget that even though those issues seem so big and so scattered, that we should ever take our focus away from them. Because those are the societal factors which keep people in those areas. Those are those societal factors which will force the next 200 years of poverty, of lack of social choice, of lack of poor education, which will create those ghettos that we create. And I don't mean ghettos from areas, I mean ghettos from the understanding of people that live there. That they feel they have no option, that they feel they have no choice, like they feel that they have no support and no help, like they feel that it is them against the world. When you speak to some of these young people, that's what they're feeling is, it is me against the world, and I need to do whatever I can to get out of this situation by any means necessary. We don't look at those societal factors. So when it comes to our civic responsibility, what happens is we reduce it to either nothing. The next step up is we take part in walks and local activities. The next part up is that we take part in youth activities. But then what happens is we always forget the societal issues that are facing young people, that are facing young people that are normally committing these crimes. And I think that that's what we really need to think about when it comes to our civic engagement. Is that what are we doing, and what buttons are we pressing, and what needles are we trying to move? Because I think it becomes very disparate when we're working in isolation, when we're not considering these wider factors. And I, for one, personally believe that it is only through taking part in conversations, liaising with people, understanding the agendas and motives of other organizations and working with them in a true sense of a partnership, that we will actually come together to actually deal with these issues. And I believe that once we start to do that, we will start to see wonderful things. I think we have to move a lot beyond the lines of the number and the size of our congregation, the number and size of our organizations, the number and size of how we prop up what we need to prop up. I think once we move beyond those traditional lines and we can move more together, I think that that's when we will be able to really drive social change. And I think in the absence of that, we're in a place where we're always going to be fighting against the torrid uphill struggle it is against some of these issues. Thank you very much for listening. I would like to wish you all Ramadan Kareem. There's a few days left of this blessed month, and where it's easy really for us to start focusing on Eid and the celebration of Eid, where the concerns are making sure we're prepared. It's also important to remember that this blessed moment and in this blessed month of Ramadan is still here. We have a few days left. I'd like to wish you Ramadan Kareem and Eid Mubarak from everybody at Muslim Aid. Thank you very much for inviting me here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Altaf, for your informative talk and very important questions that you have raised, which hopefully gives us more to think about, that there is a lot more than just meets the eyes, and we need to engage more. I hope we can work towards creating a safer society for us and for our future generations to come. We'll now move on to the next segment of the evening, which involves poetry, prayers, and hymns by representatives of different faith groups, encouraging peace and harmony in the world. To start with, I'd like to call Reverend Richard Tetlow to sing a popular Christian song. Please see the lyrics at the back of the program schedule if you'd like to sing along. And we please welcome Richard Tetlow.
Greetings to you all, I'd say. I'm very happy to be here. I've been here quite a few times before, but not for this particular occasion. And it's a great privilege for all of us to be here, especially for me as a Christian priest. I'm just going to make a link with what Altaf's been saying, with my own experience and that of my wife. Clearly, I'm less into working with young people now. You can see the obvious reason, but we do our best. But we never know who we're going to be up against or be able to work with in a very strange way. I used to be the vicar of Ladywood for nearly 20 years. Ladywood was seen as a very tough place. We moved to Moseley about 10 years ago, and then on Christmas night, walking home from church, we were threatened by a gentleman with a knife. And he wasn't joking. And I thought that in Ladywood, I'd never had that experience at all. A tough place, supposedly. Moseley is seen as quite different. But my point is that these things can happen anywhere. People have their difficulties anywhere, do they not? Whatever age they are, this guy was not young at all. But people have their reasons. That's what gets to us all. Why do people do this? And to understand that a middle-aged gentleman on Christmas night will want to attack an aging couple going back from church. But it made me think about the music which I'm going to suggest to us, because it's got in it, it's kind of a love song, really, and maybe that's what we're looking after, to say, well, where does that love element come in? The music itself is universal, is it not? The joy and pleasure of music can be universal. But what makes it even more universal, when the words which are involved are universal words. And I'm going to ask you to help me out with this song, which you will see on the back of your paper. You see a popular Christian song, indeed, which it is. And then there's a blank, 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 is flowing like a, and then there's a gap. And for those of you who know music a bit, what we're going to do there is to stop. So it'll be like there's something is flowing like a river, and that's the beat in between, you know. And then you say river. Something is flowing like a river, yeah? So one is ought to either clap or beat or do something then. But first of all, we have to find what is flowing like a river. And this is where the link comes in with what's been said by Altaf. What words are of universal merit, universal value to us all, whatever faith we are, for which we would stand? We said, yes, that is what life is about. And I'm going to ask you now, if you can please name for me 5 universal words, universal values, which you think for you are flowing like a river. Now, it has to be a word of one syllable, otherwise it won't fit into the song. And that's very important. We're singing here tonight. That's the focus now. So 5 words which might be flowing like a... Yes? Peace. Okay? Love. Peace, love. We're doing all right. Right, 3 more. So I can't hear. Light. Life. L-I-F-E, life. Okay, yes. That's pretty broad. Peace, love, life. 2 more. Joy. Okay. Peace, love, life, joy. 1 more at the back from the children. No, sorry, you're not. What age are you, sir? There's 2 children behind you. Yes, the children, please. What? Happy. Oh, it's not. Won't quite fit in. Happiness is flowing. We'll fit that in. We'll do our best to fit it in, right? Okay. So the first one is peace. So I'm going to start it off. And then you'll get the idea of the song, and then you can join with me. Peace is flowing like a river, flowing out through you and me, spreading out into the desert, setting all the captives free. All right? Then we'll go on to love, life, joy, and happiness. All right? Okay? So, but don't forget, in that, in the space after Leica, you've got to clap. Peace is flowing like a river, flowing out for you and me, spreading out into the desert, setting all the captives free. All right, you've got the idea. We're going to go straight through those 5 words as best we can. Ready? Good. 1, 2, 3, 4. Peace is flowing like a river, flowing out to you and me, spreading out into the desert, setting all the captives free. Then love. Love is flowing like a river, flowing out through you and me, spreading out into the desert, setting all the captives free. Life is flowing like a river, flowing out through you and me, spreading out into the desert, setting all the captives free. Joy is flowing like a river, flowing out through you and me, spreading out into the desert, setting all the captives free. Now. Happiness is flowing like a river, flowing out through you and me, spreading out into the desert, setting all the captives free.
Thank you so much for that, Reverend Richard. I think we have found some budding singers here maybe, huh? Next, I'd like to call upon Jan Lovelock, who will be reciting a Buddhist poem on safety and peace. Mr. Lovelock, please.
Sabe sata sukita hontu. That's not the poem. That's may all beings be happy, which is as near as you'll get to a Buddhist prayer, I think. I'm a police chaplain, so I'd like to speak up on behalf of the police who weren't able to be here. We in the chaplaincy team are not so much looking after their spiritual welfare as just their welfare. And we know in these days of shortages and cuts how hard pressed they are, how hard they have to work, and how much it impinges on their health. So if they weren't able to come, they really were not able to come. They would have loved to have come. They see that as a part of their outreach, but other things came in the way. I was, though, pleased to hear such a comprehensive report from Altaf. And he really stole a lot of my thunder. I don't want to repeat very much of what he said, except the duty of us all to listen and to learn from what we listen, and as Altaf said, not to impose our own solutions or our own ideas, just to listen. Because as much healing comes from a sympathetic listener as from anything else. I see he's nodding. Of course, knife crime isn't anything new. I'm wearing this today, but I really was disreputable 60 years ago. In a Birmingham pub, I had a knife presented at me because I smiled at the wrong person in that pub. 2 years before, because I danced with the wrong girls, I was very nearly beaten up by a gang. So these things have been with us not just since my youth. Glasgow was mentioned, and knife crime and razor crime goes back decades before my youth there as well. What particularly impinged on our generation, and what is impinging on the young people nowadays, is something much more basic, though. It's fear. Because this problem is being talked about so much now, and is so much of a part of their experience. But what happened to my generation was something that we didn't even understand because we were too young to understand. And that was a war was going on. And we just could not interpret what was happening to us. There was only the fear. And it entered our lives and changed us for good. Now, I was lucky. I had poetry. And so I could express myself. And the poem that I want to read, it's not a Buddhist poem, it's a poem written by a Buddhist, but talking about what it was like after the event to slowly come to an idea of what had been done to us as very young children. And the poem is called Pirates. Roods of split brick, lairs for the monsters that I'd shut back in their books and thought had disappeared when I awoke screaming and wet from wicked flame-scarred dreams. I was afraid of the steady rumbling of bees and a mosquito whining in my ear as bombers crept into the rubble of my house of sleep. Hounds in the sky, they howled and battered on the doors, swept through the stir and burning wash of storm dawn's pirates, toppling it like a spider spinning bone. My nightmares were the least calamity that night. I was too young to tell what witched my dreams when summer's cup was broken and the shark jaws filled my bed. Later I'd play in the abandoned gardens, plunge down grassy cellars sloping to the sky, and re-emerge tracing the sooty furrows of the stairs. How could I know the once unblemished childhood sleep which vanished from my cot that fiery night, exploded here to bury my stunned neighbours 2 by 2? And if some lived, rehoused in sterilized estates, did they too start when someone stepped behind them in the street and dream themselves awake in a strange home? Thank you very much for listening to me. Let me repeat. Thank you very much. Listen as enthusiastically, as carefully to those who are living in fear now. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan Lovelock, for those chosen, selective, reflective words that you shared with us all, and the lovely poem. I'd like now to call upon Acharya Ji Yadav Samaj and his daughter Prama Yadav to enlighten us on tonight's topic and recite a Hindu bhajan, which is a Hindu prayer. Please, welcome.
सबको सादर नमस्ते और रामादान करीम, सलाम अलैकुम। I am here to recite a bhajan, Vedic bhajan, which is based on Vedic philosophy to increase the values of life and to support a good life. My daughter Prama is here. She will say something and she will introduce herself as well after reciting this bhajan. Please. It is in Hindi, but whoever understands Hindi or Urdu, they must enjoy it, and you will understand my vibration as well, the feeling of heart. यज्ञ रूप प्रभु हमारे भाव उज्ज्वल कीजिए, छोड़ देवे छल कपट को मानसिक बल दीजिए। वेद की बोलें ऋचाएं सत्य को धारण करें, हर्ष में हो मग्न सारे शोक सागर से तरें। भावना मिट जाए मन से पाप अत्याचार की, कामनाएं पूर्ण होवे यज्ञ से नर नार की। स्वार्थ भाव मिटे हमारा प्रेम पथ विस्तार हो, इदन्न मम का सार्थक प्रत्येक में व्यवहार हो। प्रेम रस में तृप्त होकर वंदना हम कर रहे, नाथ करुणा रूप करुणा आपकी सब पर रहें। पूजनीय प्रभो हमारे भाव उज्ज्वल कीजिए, छोड़ देवें छल कपट को मानसिक बल दीजिए, पिता आत्मिक बल दीजिए। Now my lovely daughter Prama is coming to share a few words with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening. Assalamu alaikum. Happy Ramadan to everyone. So let me introduce myself, who I am. Yes, I'm Acharji's daughter. So my name is Prama. Professionally, I'm a clinical pharmacist working for NHS 111. I'm also a beauty pageant title holder. I'm a runner-up for Mrs. India UK 2019 and Mrs. Charismatic Mrs. India UK 2019. So I'm here for both of the platforms. So first, I will mention for my role as a pharmacist and the topic that we are discussing today. So thank you for allowing me to say a few words on this topic and how, as a pharmacist, we are able to make a difference and how, as a pharmacist, you can approach for safeguarding. To be honest, I'll confess first, when I was approached for this topic, I didn't know the reasons or the factors which were contributing. I was born in India. I came here after doing my GCSEs. So I finished my GCSEs in India, did my A-levels and university degree over here. So I'm married to a proper Brumi. He is born and brought up in Birmingham. And when he shares a story of his childhood and his school life and the way how knife crime has increased drastically over past year or so. So with so much talks about London knife crime, I wanted to know about my hometown as a Birmingham. What are the factors and what, as a Brumies, we can do to sort of prevent it? So as a pharmacist for 111, I don't know if a lot of people are aware about it. There is a safeguarding procedures. So there are preventive procedures as well. So for example, if you see someone, they are in that sort of trouble because it's mainly youngsters who are going through or who are involved in such crimes. So if you're a parent, if you're a sibling, or if you are a neighbor, if you're in part of that society and you think that there's something going on, or you have observed certain activity which hasn't led to that life-threatening situation where you have to ring 999, you can approach 111. There is a full team of CAS, which is a clinical team, which involves pharmacists, which involves mental health team, which involves dentists, which involves a safeguarding team which can talk to people on their level. Where Altaf was talking about creating that safe space, we provide that as a 111 team with full confidentiality, because sometimes where somebody was mentioned about being a good listener, we provide that because sometimes all they need is somebody to listen what they want and somebody to listen empathetically and understand they need. So yes, that's a part of 111. As a pharmacist, clinically, we're all aware, so if there is any need which is not life-threatening and somebody has been injured in that crime and they just need a clinical advice over the night or somewhere where it's not accessible by GP, ring 111, there is a team, they'll help you. On the other side, being a pageant holder and what I thought could help as youngsters, because I'm involved in a bit of my background, I'm a dancer. Professionally, I do Bollywood dancing, I do Bharatanatyam and a bit of classical dancing. So when I was researching and when I found what could be the reason or what could we do as a society to prevent such crimes, one of the things that came across, isolation, which I'll touch a topic, but isolation not in a sense of loneliness, boredom in a sense, yes, because sometimes all these youngsters, if in the school they haven't been given any task or they haven't been involved in such topics where they can keep themselves engaged. So by providing schools, involving them in extracurricular activities, that would be a good idea. So if there's a certain demographic which have been quite high in that crime. If we organize certain events which will enhance and help them focus on their talent or their abilities, it could be artistic talents, it could be poetry, dance, speeches, painting, and sort of organize that as a community event so they can divert their focus from sort of involving in a gang crime, but focusing their talent and inner sort of likeness in those things. And these sort of events help them build their confidence as well and deviate their mind away from such things. And also organize like friendly sports, because earlier you were talking about football. So whoever is not here, they're watching football. So they're engaged in something. So if we can sort of organize a friendly sport event, Cricket World Cup is on, so maybe organize a cricket sport event where the community can come together and play a friendly match. And these are little things we can do and involve these youngsters to sort of come together and play as a team, be a team, not in a gang against each other, and sort of help and build a harmonious society. On a last note, as a parent or as a younger generation, what we can teach them is be more accepting, don't be judgmental from their point of view when they go to school and they see somebody appearing different, so not to be judgmental on caste, creed, faith, or different social status. So if we teach our kids, our younger generation, to be more accepting and to be more engaging, they won't feel different going in schools or going in social events. They are different, or maybe we don't need to speak to them, or maybe we shouldn't. So that teaching begins from home. So hopefully together we can make a good society, and I congratulate and thank you so much for having me over here and holding such a great event. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Acharya ji and Prama, for those lovely bhajan and for sharing with us your experience and your thoughts and the words of reflection and for us to ponder upon. Yes, indeed, it is so important that we actually begin to listen to these young people predominantly. Being a parent of teenagers as well, it is far too easy most of the time to talk from a position of above to somebody below. Whereas we have to come down to their level, and even at a physical level, eye to eye, sit with them, listen to them, although they are taller than me now and I have to look up to them. Huh? But the point is, yes, we have to let go and begin to listen to them. They are going through tough challenges themselves in their own right. It is not easy being a young person in today's society. Next, I'd like to invite Sukhi Wahiwala to recite a Sikh Ardas, a prayer for the safety of all of us. Please.
First of all, this evening, I'd like to wish everybody Assalamu alaikum. And wish everybody an amazing Iftar this evening as we go through. I have to start, I think, if I may, just to share that I don't really do much lectern speaking. This evening, I have been inspired by, I'm sure everybody understands Sheikh Arif Sahib over there. I had the good fortune of sharing some stage time with him on a couple of occasions, and he kind of cornered me into this. And also respect, if I may, just respect an individual who was, his name is Salim Rahmatullah, who was the individual who actually connected both myself and Sheikh Sahib as well. This evening, we are talking about knife crime. We're discussing the possibilities that what we can do in going forward. I would like to talk a little bit about the integration of religion, if I may, and how religion within itself attracts, communicates, and is actually all one anyway. Whether we understand, in Sheikh Arif's words, as being God-centricity, or whether we understand it's just everything is just one anyway. I believe that the flow that we're trying to all attract is the actual tool we require for our peace in future as well. So this evening I'm going to share a few verses from the Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, which is known as the living Guru in what most people will perceive as a book form, but we as Sikhs do not see it like that. We see them, the words, the scripts, and the scriptures as though it is a living Guru. It is probably known, as to my understanding, a little knowledge, that it is the only Guru or the Granth that has incorporated other writings from other faiths in a modern format as well. To give you an example, there are other Peer Sahibs and saints all incorporated within the Sikh Guru Granth Sahib Ji. I would like to start with how the Guru Granth Sahib Ji actually starts off. And it starts off with a very quick recital, and then if I may, continue to explain it a little bit further. This particular recital is the first few words of the Guru, and it is Mool Mantar. Within the Mool Mantar, it actually unlocks all of the elements of peace, safety, security, and the whole faith within a very quick verse, if I may share with your understanding. Ik Oankar, Sat Nam, Karta Purkh, Nirbho, Nirvair, Akal Murat, Ajuni Saibhang, Guru Prasad, Jap, Ad Sach, Jugad Sach, Hai Bhi Sach, Nanak Hosi Bhi Sach. If I may go on to just explain, Ik Oankar, it is just a very simple accomplishment of there is only one entity. There is only one collective, there is only one God. We may call it by whatever name we wish to, but the principle is there is only one energy, whether we believe in a collective energy or not. Sat Nam, his name, or the name recital of his name, would be the truth. Sat meaning truth. And by the way, just for reference, if I can frame this for everybody, that within the Sikh faith there is no he or she. It is formless. So the word he is just for a focused purpose for this evening. Karta Purkh, he is the creator of everything. It starts and ends with the same. Nirbho, he is without fear. There is no fear within the entity. Basically, if you tap into this energy, you will feel no fear. You will feel the love as well. Nirvair, he is without hate. This is without vindictive energy, without hate, without indifferences with differences. Akal Murat, he is timeless, without form. There is no form, it is an energetic field. Ajuni, he's beyond birth and death. So it is, this energy is not born or it does not die. It is forever lasting. Sahebhang, he is self-existent. It needs nothing else to exist. It is its own existence. Guru Prasad, well, before this there comes a question that if we've got all these forms, it's formless, self-existent, that how would one attain connection with the divine? Then he goes on to say that Gur Prasad means realized by the true Guru's grace, which means the Prasad, which is the gift through recital words, through meditation, how to connect with the same energy. Jap, he goes on to say, the meditation on the word of the energy, of the entity of the divine. So it has no reference to any particular faith, any faith, and all faiths encompassed. Ad Sach, he was true in the beginning and he will remain the truth. Jugad Sach, he was true through the ages. This again is just the element of truth. Hai Bhi Sach, he is true in the present form, now. Nanak Hosi Bhi Sach, Guru Nanak is the founder of the Sikh faith, otherwise known as Peer or Fakir Nanak. In Makkah has been understood as well, and also, as I understand, in Baghdad and information I have been given. Nanak says he is the God will evermore remain the truth. Within the Sikh faith and within the Guru Granth Sahib Ji, the references to the divine are in 47 different words. And in no case, in no point, does it actually mention Vaheguru, which is basically the Sikh reference to the entity. It is using every encompassing faith, every other word, every other language to represent what is the divine. Guru Nanak goes on to say, if I may, I'm coming towards the end, and this brings us closer towards the oneness of the knife crime issues. Guru Nanak goes on to say, Aval-e-Allah, and I'll read it, then I can break it down if I may. Aval-e-Allah, Noor-e-upaya, Kudrat de sab bande, Ik noor pe sab jag upajya, Kaun pale, kaun mande. With reference to this conversation, most usually ask me, is that actually used the word Allah within the Guru Granth Sahib Ji? And the answer is yes. Khuda is also mentioned in the Guru Granth Sahib Ji. And when I was sharing this information with Sheikh Sahib just over there, he inspired me to share. He said, you must share this with the congregation. He said, because it's rarely understood that actually other faiths are represented within other faiths. And the assumption that we are separate to each other is usually the case. Anybody who has a background from Africa will know that principally all faiths were seen as one. We sat next to each other. I didn't come from a background of Africa, but all my friends who have, they understand that they sit next to each other. There was no differentiation. And I think that oneness can and is coming back again, the more we get towards our inner self. So the conversation of Avalli Allah, that means there is only availing or one entity, Allah. Kudrat ke sab bande, we as human beings are all one. Ik noor pe sab jag upajya. There is only one noor, there's only one shining, I would say reference point just to give you an example of understanding, sunlight. There's only one sunlight, it beats upon every individual and every single human being. Kaun mande, kaun pale, kaun mande, which goes on to say, who is good and who is bad? The question is, it's neither in our hands to understand that we have differences between us, it's in the Maker's hands. But just go on in the conversation of peace and understanding of the knife crimes that were shared earlier on. If we ourselves in our modern education, we were talking earlier on, actually move ourselves from actually seeing differences in each other and actually change our spectacles, one could say, change the lens that one sees the world from, and actually start to look at the similarities within each other, we will actually realize we all have two eyes, a nose, two ears, and possibly one mouth. And the reality is that we all stand upright, and with reference, obviously, with true respect to anybody who cannot physically do such things. But the principle is we have the same blood running within all of us. We bleed the same color. We understand that if we can pass this message on to our children, the only thing that could ever happen is bliss and joy within their eyes, within their spectacle, and with their lens. Knife crime is very serious. I do not feel that I'm qualified to share this information with you, but as a young, growing Sikh and a person of this world, I hope that I haven't offended in any way. And my sincere apologies for any misrecitals within our prayers. I'd like to end with our 10th Guru's words, which is the founder of the Sikh faith, the Sikh Khalsa faith, the order, Sri Guru Gobind Singh Ji. And he says within one of the prayers, which is Tav Prasad Savaiya, he goes on, and this is where we find some of the answers that we're looking for within ourselves, I think. Sach kaho, let me tell you the truth. But if I share it all complete, then I can break it down. Sach kaho, sun lo e sab hai, jin prem kiyo, tin hi prab payo. So if I can explain, Sach is the word of the truth. Kaho, let me tell you the truth, let you understand the truth, and just be the truth. Sun lo e sab hai. Everybody, please have a listen to what is being said. Everybody should focus on this context. Jin prem gyo, he who has loved, he as in mankind, not male or female. He who has loved, jin prem gyo, tin hi prabhapayo, he is the one who is able to connect with the divine, with God, with Allah, with Waheguru, with every form. So, in a few conversations that I was having with Sheikh Saab as well, I was very humbled to be asked to be here. And I would like to just end, if I may, with some loving words which are at the end of every ardas, which is the Sikh, you could say, dua. And it is again, once again, with our founder, Sri Guru Nanak Dev Ji. And he has taught every single prayer, every single individual prayer that we do at the end of the day, at the end of every conversation we have, to end it with Tere pane Nanak naam chardi kala, Tere pane sarbat da pala, which basically is the final verse of any ardas. And this is Nanak naam, not himself, by the way. Nanak says naam of the Creator. Chardiyan kala. Chardiyan kala is a state of joy and bliss. Nothing can be subtracted or taken from it or added. It is complete. Tere pane, with your grace, pane sarbat dapala, may all mankind be blessed in whichever form we understand. Thank you very much for listening to me this evening, and I hope you have an amazing opening of the big Iftar function today. And I thank again Sheikh Saab for stretching me today to address the congregation today. Once again, thank you. Good evening.
Thank you so much, Brother Suki Bahiwala, for those touching words and for the ardas, and also for your beautiful references and words of wisdom of the light, the same light shining upon one and all of us. And in the same way, if you look at it, it is the same water that is nourishing. If the water is the substance of life, it is the same water that is nourishing and giving life to all different kinds of trees. But each and every tree has its own individual fruit in taste, color, and shape. Yet, it is the same water. I'd now like to call Brother Qari Muhammad Ali to recite a few verses of the Quran. Please, Qari Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum and good evening. I thought I'd start with some translation first and then end with the Arabic. In the name of God, the Beneficent, the Merciful. The believers are but brothers, so make settlement between your brothers and fear God that ye may receive mercy. O you who have believed, let not a people ridicule another people. Perhaps they may be better than them. Nor let women ridicule other women. Perhaps they may be better than them. And do not insult one another, and do not call each other by offensive nicknames. Wretched is the name of disobedience after one's faith, and whoever does not repent, then it is those who are the wrongdoers. O you who have believed, avoid much negative assumption. Indeed, some assumption is sin, and do not spy or backbite each other. Would one of you like to eat the flesh of his brother when dead? You would detest it, and fear God. Indeed, God is accepting of repentance and is merciful. O mankind, indeed we have created you from male and female, and made you people and tribes, that you may know one another. Indeed, the most noble of you in the sight of God is the most righteous of you. Indeed, God is knowing and acquainted. And now the Arabic. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنما المؤمنون إخوة فأصلحوا بين أخويكم واتقوا الله لعلكم ترحمون. يا
يسخر قوم من قوم عسى أن يكونوا خيرا منهم عسى أن يكونوا خيرا منهم ولا نساء من نساء عسى أن يكن خيرا منهن ولا تلمزوا أنفسكم ولا تنابزوا بالألقاب بئس الاسم الفسوق بعد الإيمان ومن لم يتب فأولئك هم الظالمون صدق الله العلي العظيم. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Qari Muhammad Ali, for those heart-rendering words and recitation. And thank you all for sharing such touching and heartwarming prayers and poems with us. I'd now like to invite Sheikh Arif Abdul Hussein, who is the director of Al-Mahdi Institute, to say a few words.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Peace be with you all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Just a few minutes and I realize that the time of prayers has approached. Social discord, violence, crime, these have always been a part and parcel of the human community. But they have been a part and parcel of a growing human community. The desire has always been that humanity will come of age and they will be able to put violence behind them. They will be able to reason. They will be able to see the loftier goal intended by God for the creation of human beings and for them to realize their own potential and for them to arrive at the creation of a noble, befitting human family. If we look at the great prophets of God, the great man, the great saints, they realized this very well. They came to communities that were barbaric, not only killing in petty arguments, but conducting vendettas after the initial killing. What they realized was that the perpetrators are people who are also suffering. There is a state of inner discord, inner turmoil. There is a lack of direction, a lack of purpose. There is lack of human worth and nobility. A singular message was imparted by them to humankind, that you are indeed a noble creature. You are beyond all of this. They turned people inwardly to a nobler state of existence. They reminded them of their inner nobility. They reminded them that God is their purpose. They reminded them that they are good in essence. They initiated their journey by forgiving people, by giving them confidence in their own humanity, by telling them that there is a great task ahead of you, to bring your own self to completion from within, and to impart goodness to the human family. And this was the only reason through which they were successful. The prophets never carried swords, but only to defend themselves at times. The great men of history were not the bloodthirsty revolutionaries, but men of ideas that turned humanity towards a direction that befitted them. And more than all are those saintly figures who reminded human beings of their inner light. Every religion, according to the Book of God, is the religion of peace, Islam. Peace is an ideal state for us, befitting us. We are noble creatures. I end with this. We, the people of faith, we are duty-bound through our faith. We must hold ourselves responsible to contribute and to do our bit, to remind humanity of the goodness that humanity has. In the name of the One, in the name of humanity, in the name of God, in the name of goodness, to spread this goodness. I am indeed humbled in front of such illustrious people and in front of such beautiful souls, and for the contributions that have been made today, that the real problem is not in trying to rectify people through force. And that is not working. Retribution doesn't mean anything anymore. And this is what the prophets found themselves facing. What is missing is a sense of worth of humanity. What is missing is a sense of forgiveness and love and that inner nobility that is inbuilt within us. We, the people of faith, must do our bit and bring to light this beauty that is shared within humanity and do our bit and contribute in that way. The talk of retribution, warning, and punishment does not bring greatness to humanity. A sense of greatness from within drives them to a nobler state of humanity. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Sheikh Arif Abdul Hussein, for your thought-provoking and words filled of or with wisdom. We also have a special person with us here today. She's a trustee for the World Congress of Faith and an ambassador for the Universal Peace Federation. Can I please welcome Dina Nandu Mandalia to say a few words?
I shall start completely differently. I said dobro veče, that is good evening in Bosnian. So, so what happened in 1991, there was a war in Bosnia, and that's the same time I lost my mother. I was so close to my mother, so I had all that love and compassion, and I all lost all that. And these people came at that time, so they needed love and affection and everything, and I needed hugs and everything. And so that's what happened. They came at the right time, and I got connected through the Red Cross with them. So I worked with them for 5 years in Cambridge. And what happened was there were lots of youths and everything. The first group of people who came were 40 men from concentration camp. And then before I went to see them, I phoned the police and I said to the police, can you please give me an access to the person who speaks Croatian? And they said yes. And eventually I got through that person and I learned how to say good morning, dobro jutro, how are you, kako ste? And I say, I'm very well, thank you, dobro jutro. Just a few things I learned. And all these 40 men sitting there smoking. And that time I was young. I'm 73 now, but that time I was quite young. So I had mini skirt and this thing, showing my legs and everything. So they were looking, what is she going to teach us? So as soon as I said, dobro jutro, oh la la, the body language, everything changed. They said, wow, she speaks our language. So sometimes I think one little word and compassion actually connects the people in a certain way that you can never actually erase. And because I did that, the first group, like praised me and think, they said, wow, she speaks a language, this, that, another, whatever, and my job was so easy. So the college, when she sent the tutors there, when I went there, 15, 20 students will come. When the other tutors went there, then only 5 would go because their teaching style was different, my teaching style was different. So the college said to me, can you go there every day and please stop teaching other things? I said, fine, that's all right. Okay. It was a win-win situation for me because the center was nearer my place. I didn't have to travel much longer, so I was saving money on petrol as well. So that was good. Anyway, the way I taught them was because they were like very intelligent people, because they were like professional people and whatnot. And I said, I cannot teach them by books and things like that. So what I did was, because they said, the Red Cross said they have to know the parts of the body and aches and pains. So if they go to the hospital, they can explain to say, wow, I've got a headache or whatever. Anyway, so they have to teach me. So I have to speak in Bosnian. They have to speak in English. They draw the picture, I write in English, they write in Bosnian. So I had to say glava, oči, uho, and they have to say head, nose, like that. Anyway, then it expanded and whatnot. And there were lots of youths. And then sometimes they used to get bored or whatever because the center was very small. They used to go to the park in the center, and sometimes they used to have, fights with the things and whatnot. Then I decided, I think one of the person already mentioned that, then I said, right, they have got some passion for something, and I said, right, I am going to create a nice football team. Then I went to the professional footballers in there, where the Cambridge football team. Then I got some advice and things like that. We formed that one. Then we organized proper competitions with the proper teams. And they got really focused, and their attitude and their everything changed. So that was and some of them actually are writers. They have written a book, and they have also made a film. And last year, when we had the Holocaust Memorial, one of the films they showed was one of my students. And guess what? He was there in Cambridge, Anglia Ruskin University. When he saw me in the audience, my God, he actually came down, he gave me a hug to say, and he didn't show that as if he's somebody so important and he is like a filmmaker and things like that. And I feel, the love and compassion we had, it's like I see the quality counts, not the quantity. So the quality of love we shared at the right time is like everlasting. So that's really good. And the second, I do lots of other things, but I will not go into it, but I just say I do lots of school assemblies, and when they ask me certain questions and things like that. So just one example, I know that I have to finish quickly. Yeah, okay. So I do the school assemblies, I do the women's institutes and whatnot, and all these sort of things. But certain things I explain in a certain way. So it's nothing to do with religion, and I feel what's very important is, so for you, every single human being, to have that balance, mental, physical, and spiritual balance. So every morning when you go out, before you go out, you say, I am a person who belongs to the universal God, and I am going to have this harmony within myself. When you have the harmony within yourself, and when you go out, your vibes are so positive, and you believe it or not, even the baby in the pram actually gives you a smile. So I think keep doing that, okay?
Thank you very much, Dina Nandu Mandalia, for your beautiful words and your experiences. As you have noticed, we are running a bit behind, so please accept our apologies. Zinat Bhai Moti's talk is going to be a bit later, so we'll now quickly just proceed to the raffle, and I'll ask Sheikh Harif Abdul Hussain to come and just pick a ticket so we can pick our winner for the raffle. Three, two, five. 325. We have a winner. Yes. Can we have an applause? Please come.